Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating and honestly pretty radical theory about media. It comes from a 20th century spiritual thinker, and it might just change the way you look at the screen that's probably in your hand right now. So let's just start with a big question. We usually think of our phones and TVs as neutral tools, right? They're just windows showing us what's happening out there. But what if they're more than that? What if they're actively shaping your consciousness in ways you don't even realize? This conversation isn't new. Decades ago, a spiritual thinker named Mira Alfassa, who was known as the Mother, developed this incredibly deep theory about media's hidden power. And she wasn't just some philosopher talking about things from afar. She got right in there, engaging with it, critiquing it, and taking it all apart. Okay, so to really get what she was talking about, we have to understand her core idea. She called it the metaphysics of vibration. And this is where her theory goes way beyond the usual screen time is bad conversation. For the Mother, media wasn't just a neutral pipeline spitting out facts. Not at all. She saw it as a delivery system for invisible forces. She called them vibrations that go directly into our consciousness. Every news report, every movie scene, every image carries a specific kind of vibe, and we just absorb it. And here's the kicker, the really profound part of this. Her theory suggests that if the media is constantly blasting out vibrations of fear and chaos and sickness, it isn't just reporting on those things. It's actively pumping them into the world's atmosphere, maybe even making them more likely to happen. All right, let's get into her really stark warnings about the media she was seeing back then. She saw it as a serious danger, not just to our spiritual lives, but to our basic well-being. One of her key concepts was this thing she called collective suggestion. She basically saw it as a form of mass hypnosis. The media hammers away at an idea, say a fear about a disease or a disaster, and it just saturates everyone's minds until we all unconsciously accept it as an absolute, unavoidable truth. So you see, the really crucial point for her was this difference. There's informing, just sharing facts, and then there's projecting, actively creating an atmosphere. In her view, a journalist wasn't just a mirror. They were an architect of the planet's mental and emotional environment. And constantly projecting fear wasn't a neutral act. It was pollution. And she was especially critical of television. I mean, think about it. You can put down a newspaper, right? But the TV back then was this constant intruder right in your living room. She felt it just ruptured the sanctuary of the home, beaming this nonstop stream of chaotic, lower vibrations into your personal space, making it almost impossible to find any peace. And get this quote from Sri Aurobindo's epic poem Savitri was actually written before television was even common, but her followers saw it as this incredible prophecy, this lurid light and shade staging dramas of the sorrow of the depths. They felt it perfectly described the glow of the TV screen, which she ended up calling the glass of doom. But here's where the story takes a fascinating twist. She wasn't just some critic who hated all media. No way. In a really surprising move, she totally embraced cinema. But she saw it as something very specific, a potential tool for enlightenment. So, under her guidance, movie nights in her spiritual community were turned into a kind of yogic practice. Seriously. It wasn't about just being entertained. It was all part of what she called an unending education, using films to learn about beauty, courage, and how to widen your own consciousness. And the crucial thing is how they chose the films. It had nothing to do with religious morality or anything like that. Instead, they were picked based on their positive vibratory quality. She looked for movies that showed heroism, that had real beauty and harmony, or even just captured a pure, sincere joy for life. This unique way of watching movies led to some really interesting and pretty unexpected critiques of even the biggest Hollywood blockbusters of the day. Her analysis went way deeper than just the plot. For example, after her community watched the huge epic The Ten Commandments, her reaction was legendary. She said, "And to think Moses climbed up the Sinai to hear that banality?" To her, the commandments themselves were just these rigid external rules. She felt they were spiritually inferior to the inner living law of the spirit that she was teaching. The movie was a spectacle, for sure, but the core message, she saw it as a step backward. Okay, so this is a great story, but how in the world can we apply these ideas from a century ago to our modern world of TikTok and Netflix? Well, she actually left behind a pretty clear set of principles, kind of like a user's guide for conscious media consumption. Her advice really breaks down into a clear protocol. For the news, her idea was get only the facts you absolutely need and consciously reject the fear. For movies, choose films that elevate you and try to watch them with a little detachment. And for television, or maybe today we'd say streaming, treat it like a potential intruder. You have to manage it carefully to protect your own inner peace. But her ultimate tool, the real game changer, was this practice of witness consciousness. It's a simple but super powerful 3-step thing. Step 1, observe what's on the screen. Step 2, notice how it's making you feel, emotionally and physically, without judging it. And step 3, consciously detach from that reaction. Stay grounded. That's the difference between being hypnotized by the screen and being an active, conscious viewer. So, all of this builds to her final, massive vision. She framed our relationship with media as nothing less than a battle for the very future of human consciousness. But like I said, she wasn't a pessimist. She actually dreamed of a totally new kind of media. She called it a conscious cinema that could help unite humanity and reveal all the divine beauty that's hidden in the world, instead of just focusing on the chaos on the surface. So ultimately, she saw the screen as this incredibly powerful tool that could go one of two ways. It can be a glass of doom that traps us all in a cycle of fear, or it can be a luminous screen, acting like a golden bridge to a higher, more unified consciousness. The technology itself is neutral. It's the consciousness using it that makes all the difference. And that, of course, brings us right back here to today. In an age of algorithms and AI content designed to hook our attention at any cost, these ideas from the 20th century feel more relevant than ever. So she leaves us with this final provocative question. What kind of reality are you letting your screen build for you? Is it a luminous tool, or is it a gloss of doom?